evening and welcome to a special edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. And back home, my sweet home in Maryland, is my good friend, John Webster. John, how you doing this evening?
Hey, Gary, I'm doing real good, man. Thank you for the nice introduction. This is our last segment of the NFC East. We have gone over the Washington Commanders. We have gone over the Dallas Cowboys. We have gone over the Philadelphia Eagles. And our guest tonight would probably say we're saving the best for last. Our guest tonight is Eli White, and we're going to be talking about his dear favorite team, the New York Football Giants. Welcome, Eli, man. Thanks for coming on the show today, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited.
Hey, I told you earlier in our production show, I want you to feel at home. I want you to feel a part of this. You've never been here before. We greatly appreciate it. Two things I'm going to do. One, I'm wearing a New York Giants jersey this evening. I want everybody to see this. New York Giants throwback, Y.A. Tittle. That's the jersey for Y.A. Tittle. And the other thing I'm going to do tonight to make Eli feel at home, we're going with a New York Giants baseball cap tonight. So we're doing everything New York Giants tonight, Gary. What do you think, man?
I love it. I love it. I got to ask Eli, though. Okay, he went old school, and then he went 80s with the hat. What's your favorite New York Giants emblem? Is it the NY or is it Giants?
It's actually the Giants logo that we have on our helmets with that white line underneath it. That's definitely the best one that we have. The NY is, it's eh.
See, that's for us old school guys that remember Ron Johnson and Fran Tarkington, guys like that.
Well, hey, I tell you what.
And John's hat reminds me of Lawrence Taylor.
You know, there've been some guys that have come through the Giants. There's a 56, a Lawrence Taylor. Mm-hmm. There's a 92, a Michael Strahan. There's a 10, an Eli Manning.
Yes, sir.
Let's see what number we come up with tonight. But before we get into it, let's do a little background, a little chit chat with Eli, find out what's been going on with them. How do we end up here today? Eli, man, you played basketball as a kid. You played for the Germantown basketball team there. They ended up becoming an AAU program. Your dad, Cisco, was the coach. I think y'all played for like 6 or 7 years and ended up being a powerful program. What was it, Germantown Heat, right?
Yes, sir.
So y'all ended up becoming a powerful program up there in Montgomery County.
Yep. Coming up, I had a very close friend group. I brought a lot of good people together. I knew these kids for 5-6 years, even before we started playing basketball. And I feel like that kind of sprung the greatness a little bit. So, you know, we started with a real genuine connection. My dad saw us all playing for this other kind of rival Germantown team, the Hard Knocks at the time. And he was like, you know what? I got a group of kids. I'm going to start an organization, started it up. And it actually started even before that. It started at rec basketball when we were in elementary school. We kind of took that group, ran with it, and then we took Germantown by storm.
And you went on and played ball at Oakdale High School, where you did some really good stuff over there. And I told you earlier, and I tell the story to another one of our friends that we share, Ed Taylor, how I met you, and you didn't really know this until the day I shared the story with you, when you were sitting in the stands before one of your games, and you all were just talking. There's a bunch of kids just sitting and talking, and the level of leadership that you were showing, where these kids were just interacting with you and following your lead, not a bad lead. It was a leadership lead, and making sure everybody was involved in the conversation and involved in everything. I'm like, man, I fell in love with you then, man. I thought it was great. Your mom and dad, Eli and Alicia, should be very, very proud of you, because the leadership you showed as a 16, 17-year-old kid, There are grown men, 45, 40, 50, 60 years old, that can't show the leadership that you showed. And I just think the world of you, man. And I mean that sincerely. And that's how I first came across you. And I told your dad and Ed what I thought about you, man. So mom and dad should be very, very proud of the kid that you are and what you are continuing to be.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And feel free to let them know that whenever you'd like, because, it wouldn't hurt to remind them every once in a while.
Hey, man, I got a secret for you. Just tell them to check this YouTube out and they'll see the compliment.
Yes, sir.
And tell them to hit the like button too.
All right.
Hey, but after high school, you went to East Carolina.
Yep.
You went there for a couple years. Didn't play ball because you wanted to concentrate on your studies. How did it go for you at East Carolina?
Yeah, East Carolina was some of the best years of my young life, I'd say. And it wasn't because of the studying, I'll tell you that. So East Carolina was a very good time. I had to lock in though. I spent a couple of years just, messing around doing the college thing. And I came back home after my second summer and I was still interested in playing basketball. So I went over to FCC and I interacted with the coach over social media or email. And he said, come on out. Why don't you run with us? I went out for my first workout and he, gave me a spot. So I came back up home and I started playing ball again. It was pretty cool.
And for you all that don't know, FCC, Frederick Community College.
Yes,
went over to play at Frederick Community College, did very well there. Now, where did your radio career start? Did it start at East Carolina or did it start at Frederick or did it start where you're at Towson? Where did that start at?
It started at East Carolina. So I'm a communications major.
Okay.
So, I like doing stuff like this, podcasts, interviews. When I went into the communications or the radio station down there, I wanted to be a little different. A lot of the male communication majors were trying to do sports related things, which obviously I have a big interest in sports, but I always thought that was, the typical route. So I kind of wanted to start off with music, which is also another one of my big interests, and then pick up with sports in the future and do a radio show with sports as well as music, kind of combining pop culture with entertainment, sports and whatnot. So I started it off down there. I had a podcast with my co-host as well. We did an episode over there, and that's kind of where it took off.
Hey, Gary, check out Eli, man. He's modest. He's very humble. He said, he did a little radio and, just did a little dabbling in it. And I like my sports. But did you hear him mention he crossed over and he did some music? This guy has 2 singles, Crossroads and Rider. Do you know that? Do you know that?
I'm
Man,
learning a whole lot about Eli.
The guy sings, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Man.
Just tell us where to find it.
Yep. So I got Spotify, Apple Music. I'm sure I could give you guys a link whenever we post this. You guys could put in the description or whatnot. I have a whole link tree with my Apple Music, my Spotify profiles. Got music on there, plenty more stuff to come. I just like to create, music, sports. I have a YouTube channel as well. We do it all.
That's great, man. Now, how much more do you have to go before you're over at Towson now? How much more do you have to go before you finish?
This is my last year. So I'm currently in my second to last semester, I guess you'd say. I have one more semester after this, or just depending on maybe a summer class, or maybe a winter class. They call it like a mini-mester. Depending on how I can fit it in my schedule, it could be a little bit sooner than next spring or maybe a little bit after. So
now you let us know when you graduate so we can give you a shout out on the Daily Deuce, man. So you let us know when you get ready to graduate.
Yes, sir. Will do.
Now, with all this background, with all this information, man, it leads me to one question, man. Why the New York Giants? Why, Eli? Why the New York Giants?
Great question. So as you brought up with me earlier today, there is a photo out there somewhere circulating with me in some former Redskins, now Commander gear. As a child, my father was a big Washington football team fan, and I did everything that my dad did. He had a couple plugs or plugins at FedEx, so he in its FedEx field. So I went to some autograph signings, team dinners, this and that. So I went over there, had a little Jason Campbell jersey on, got some autographs from a lot of big players, and I was okay. Like, I like football. I like what they got going on here. And then I got to about maybe 10 years old, 9 years old, and it started to shift where I was like, you know, I could sense this team's not really moving anywhere. I didn't really see the traction. And at the time, now the Giants weren't super dominant, but my mom's side is all from New York. She's a Giants fan. And I was like, you know what? If I'm ever going to jump ship, now's the time. And I just walked off the plank and I never looked back.
You know, Cisco's still crying, right? You broke his heart, man.
Yeah, he tries to get me to convert back often. He says the offer is always on the table.
But
Well,
I can understand you jumping ship. You know, being out here in Kentucky and being away from that scene and watching how that franchise has deteriorated. I kind of get it. So
yeah. Absolutely. I picked up on that at a young age, I guess. I don't know. I got lucky.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not a Washington Commanders segment, but I'll just say this. You both hit the nail on the head. That they are a special organization. That's all I'll say about that today, because we're here to talk about the Giants. Tell us, the quarterback. Are you comfortable with Daniel Jones at quarterback? Do you want somebody else? Or what are you know, let's start right there.
I mean, not really anything too positive to say about Daniel Jones, aside from maybe what he provides with his legs for the game. You know, at least he has the mobile upside to him. I do like that. I'm very ready to move on. I've been a Giants fan for, you know, half of my life, since, you know, 10, 12 years. And we've never had a flat out superstar quarterback. You know, even with Eli Manning, he was always putting up, you know, a little average, maybe a little bit above average statistics. So if we have the chance for a CJ Stroud, a Bryce Young in next year's draft, I'm all in. I've seen what I needed to see from Daniel Jones. This last year is the make or break, which everyone in the Giants camp knows. So it can't get any worse than what we've already seen.
But your owner, Mr. Mara, says this is the first time you all have not screwed it up. You finally put some pieces around him. You have a new coach in Brian Daboll, who did an excellent job with Buffalo as offensive coordinator. You were able to get the offensive coordinator from Kansas City to come to the Giants. So you got a mixture of somebody that worked with Josh Allen and somebody that worked with Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to try to put those two together and see if you can get Daniel Jones to be somewhere like that. I mean, you know.
Or Tyrod Taylor, for that matter.
And Tyrod Taylor's the backup quarterback. So what I'm hearing Eli say already, he's already got his eye on the bullpen. He's already looking at that relief pitcher to come in.
Absolutely. You can put as much as you want around Daniel Jones. I think accuracy has been a problem. So, like, no matter how many coaches are in his ear telling him how to do these reads, how to make these plays, how to make the offense flow, you still have to get the ball from point A to point B. So until he shows me that he can do that consistently, I'm good on Daniel Jones for the moment.
Yeah. Eli, what's your biggest criticism of Jones? Is it what would you like to see him do more to really improve? Is it reading? Is it maybe, you know, like sticking with short intermediate routes, or what? You know, because I mean, we've seen him hit long passes. We've seen him hit intermediate routes, but he's just not consistent at any of them.
Okay, so good question. I think that a lot of the times Daniel Jones gets a lot of the fault, or if maybe all of the fault, for some things that aren't necessarily his, but from like a viewer's eye, you think, oh, this quarterback is terrible. We've improved the offensive line. Like you guys said, we got new offensive coordinators, new head coaches. If Daniel Jones has more than 3 seconds in the pocket, I believe that he can make plays. The offensive line was completely folding around him last year. You saw fumbles as a problem. which is going to happen when you have a 300-pound lineman in your face in the backfield. So the biggest criticism for Daniel Jones, I think, was actually just the lack of structure around him. So this year, if we have all these pieces around him and he doesn't take a step towards, I'm not saying we need a top 5 quarterback in Daniel Jones, but if you can sit at 15 out of all the teams in the NFL, that can get us to, an average record, something that would be an improvement at least.
Yeah. The thought that I have, I've always heard about quarterbacks is that it's nice to have a superstar, but having a game manager doesn't hurt. And you can look at some Super Bowl teams, such as the Baltimore Ravens in 2001 with Trent Dilfer. Not a superstar, a good game manager. For that matter, Washington, Mark Rippon he had a superstar year, but his whole thing was managing. And what you said about having a good line in front of him, the thing about that year, what made him so effective, he only got sacked 11 times, which is impressive in any season, but especially in a 16, 17, a 20-game season, including the Super Bowl. My belief is that any quarterback is only as good as the line that's protecting him, because like you said, if he has 3 seconds to throw, that's half the battle right there.
Fully agreed. You can even look at, speaking of the Ravens, just like Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Just like Joe
Flacco. I was trying to think of.
Just like that as well. I totally agree.
One of the things I think will help Jones this year, you picked up a lineman on the offensive line, Neal. So I think that's going to help a great deal in giving him a little bit more structure. And I also think, and I want to get your take on it, Saquon Barkley, it seems, is going to be ready to go. He's had some injuries in the past, unfortunately, but I think when healthy, he's a really good running back. And I think with the addition of Neal on that line, and then you get a healthy Saquon Barkley, I think you can do some things. What do you think? What do you think about Barkley?
Big fan of Barkley. Came into the league, and his rookie year, he was, pretty phenomenal. I think obviously you can't really hate on a player for being injured. Everything that you've seen while he's been on the field has been elite. I have nothing bad to say about Saquon. I hope that he stays healthy, and I hope that he stays healthy and he stays a Giant, because I know after this season he might not be. So I like Saquon, and I want him to be with us for a while.
What about your receivers? You got Golladay coming back. What do you think? You think your receivers are going to be okay? Is Jones going to be able to make them look good? How's that going to go?
I'm out on Golladay. I'll say that. Nothing as a receiver from him impresses me. He has a really big frame. Route running is not elite whatsoever. He had a pretty good season with Matthew Stafford, but Matthew Stafford threw a ball 40 yards in the air, and it was a one-on-one jump ball type of year for that guy. Mm-hmm. Nothing that I've seen from him in camp has shown any sort of explosiveness. It doesn't really even look like he necessarily wants to be there. So with Golladay, I don't have high hopes. He's a big target. If we use him correctly in the red zone, I feel like it can be somewhat effective. I really like Kadarius Toney. I like our rookie Wan'Dale Robinson. Kentucky guy, actually.
See that smile, don't you?
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, he was fun to watch last year, and I think he's in a good situation with the Giants. There's 2 things: how patient can they be with what he does? Because I'm going to say, on the one hand, he's only 5'9". Mm-hmm. On the other hand, he is a very fast 5'9". The guy just gets open, and I hope that. It sounds like he's got slot receiver written all over him, a good possession guy, but I just wonder, with someone that size, will he get a chance? Will he get an honest chance to really show what he can do?
Yeah, he's definitely one of those type of guys that's going to be used. You get the ball to him and he just makes a play, yard after catch guy. I could see him, what I was talking to some of my friends about, if you guys are familiar with Rondale Moore from the Arizona Cardinals, a lot of Rondale Moore's offensive stats come from passes that are behind the yard of the line of scrimmage. I think that with Jason Garrett gone, I think that with him, with Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney being two guys that can do a lot with the ball, and now with a new offensive coordinator, I feel like it can get really tricky back there. I really feel like we can do some really good things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, you saw me smile about Wan'Dale Robinson. I keep thinking about last season, where I think, besides just getting open, I mean, he was just a big play guy. For somebody that size, he got separation. He could run big routes. And his last college game, if you got a chance to see that in the Citrus Bowl, he got blasted coming across the middle with a very, somebody that small, well, that size, I'm going to say, you normally don't send him across the middle. And I mean, he got absolutely lit up. He had to shake it off, had to really kind of collect himself, and then comes back and catches the pass that sets up the winning touchdown. I mean, he's just a tough kid.
Let me ask you this, Eli. You mentioned Jason Garrett, and that's your former offensive coordinator. Last year, you all were getting about 15, 16 points a game, if I'm not mistaken, with Garrett as your coordinator. Do you think this year, by going away from Garrett, do you think the new offensive coordinator is going to make a more impact? Will they score more points? Will they get more out of these players that they have than Garrett was able to get out of them last year?
I think that you kind of have to. Like I don't see a world where it would regress. Like if we can't put up more than 15 points a game, then I just sell everything at that point, because it's not even the offensive coordinator, it's everything. Because I really don't know. I'm looking forward to the way that we're headed, because I don't believe in Garrett whatsoever. We're much more offensive minded, I'd say, especially with Daboll as well. I know he's gonna definitely try to get points on the board.
Yeah. Let's switch to that other side of the ball where you got to stop some people. You picked up Kayvon Thibodeau as one of your draft choices. Really great rusher. What's the guy's name you had come back? Olujari? Did I say his name right? You got him coming back. What's that defensive line going to look like this year?
It's a good question. Thibodeau just got injured, in preseason. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury, but he's going to be fine. I feel like with young guys, you can't really look for too much. I'm not coming into the season expecting for them to make, a defensive player of the year type of impact. I'm just trying to build around what we have. So I just want to see growth. Like we have Xavier McKinney as a safety, as in he's going to be a captain for us now, someone who also missed some time in previous seasons. And I just want to see how we start to gel together as a defense. So I'm excited to see. I like the pieces that we have on the front, the middle, and the back. Certain pieces, obviously we had to get rid of Bradbury, which hurt my heart, also to another NFC contender. So it's just a work in progress is how I see it.
You had to make some adjustments with your defensive backfield. You lost a few. Do you think they will be able to gel as they go through the season?
I think we're gonna have to make some pickups. We're gonna have to acquire some people. I know we're a little thin in that area at the moment, so I'm sure we'll be able to gel. We have Wink Martindale now as our DC, and I believe in him fully. So I don't really know how the players are gonna fit the system, but I believe in whatever he thinks is gonna work, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. When it comes to Dexter Lawrence, where do you feel like he can go this year? I mean, he's been a solid contributor, but with Wink Martindale as the DC, what do you feel like his potential is this season?
That's a good question as well. Dexter Lawrence is someone that's not really talked about when you think of our Giants defense, because he doesn't really have that star studded name type thing. You know, you automatically people talk about Kayvon, and Dexter Lawrence is just someone who can stuff the run, but he's also quick and agile enough to get around a lineman and get to the quarterback. So I think that with the right schemes, the right mix of speed off the edge plus power up the middle, I think that we can cause some commotion on other opposing quarterbacks.
Well, you mentioned Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale is one of the better defensive coordinators, did a great job with the Ravens. Absolutely great job. One of his things that he does, he's very aggressive. He likes to blitz, which means your cornerbacks are going to be on an island by themselves sometimes. Mm-hmm. Can they handle that? And also, can the line get to the quarterback enough so they aren't always on an island by themselves?
Yep. That's what's going to be a test for us, I believe. We have a lot of young defensive backs. You know, I haven't really seen all these defensive backs play, especially in big time games at that. So, you know, like I said, it's going to be a bit of a process. Like, you know, like I said, we're going to be mixing the speed rush with, you know, on the edge with some power up the middle. So Azeez Ojulari is also one of our young guys he's actually like excellent off of getting off the line. So, you know, and they like to run him as a linebacker sometimes as well, like an outside linebacker. And I really feel like, look, whatever Wink's cooking up, I think we have a lot of pieces that can be useful, but we are, you know, a couple stars away from doing anything super serious yet.
You mentioned earlier about growth. New York being what it is, how patient do you think the fan base has to be or can be with this year's team? You know, especially with all the transition with the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm. This season, I'll speak from my perspective, and I assume that a lot of New York Giants, our fan base is probably this way as well. We know. I don't really meet a lot of Giants fans that are super unrealistic. If anything, we're more negative on our team than anybody else. So anything that anyone has to say to us, we are already saying that about our team. So the growth, we have a lot of young pieces. We got a new coach. We have new everything almost. You know, Gettleman set us back 4 or 5 years, but seriously, he did. That was probably the worst thing that happened to us. But moving forward, since our new signings, the new head coach, new GM, it's nothing but positive trajectory since then. So if you're expecting a Giants fan or expecting as a Giants fan for us to automatically make the playoffs this year, next year, I wouldn't think so. But 3 years from right now, or maybe 2 seasons from now, I think we'll be competitive again, at least in the NFC East, no doubt.
You heard it, Gary.
This as a tear down, or just maybe kind of a reshuffling, you know, with all the changes.
Oh yeah, I definitely view it as a reshuffling, for sure. It's kind of a whole. We kind of gutted the whole operation. We got a new coach, offense, defense, and GM. Like nothing is the same as it was, and it's going to take a couple years to move on from that last, you know, regime.
3 years from now, Gary, he said it. 3 years from now, they're going to be back in the thick of things.
That's realistic. You know, I mean, you know, the first year is, unless it's just absolutely horrible, that yeah, you know, I'm not gonna say you get a pass, but everybody understands this is a transitional year. Year 2, you want to see improvement. Year 3, you want to see them start to make a splash. And the thing about that division, if they can get it together next year, I mean, heck, if they could go something close to 500, that could really shuffle up this division, because, you know, being from DC and you know, seeing those same teams year after year, but you don't really see anybody any team that's been head and shoulders above the rest. It's kind of like, you know, when the dust settles, who settles, who's on top, you know. And look at Washington just a couple of years ago. I think they won their division with a 7-9 record or something like that. So, I'm not going to say it's the NFC least by any shot, but if the Giants can be decent, if any team is close to halfway decent and a little bit better, you can win that division.
Absolutely. You have to remember, I'm a Giants fan. I saw Super Bowls out of a wild card position. So I'm not
Twice.
even, right. I'm not even praying for, 14-3 season or something. If you get us to the playoffs, I just want to see playoffs as the first step. Once you get there, at least you have a chance. Now we go into the season, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah. In terms of the front office, the brain trust, the years when Tom Coughlin was there, and I mean, I go back with Coughlin to when he was at Boston College and had just started in the NFL with Jacksonville, turned them into a winner within 2 years. And he was a guy that really believed in, building through the draft, and, was just kind of a basics guy, much like Bill Parcells. Do you think that one of the Giants' problems is that they kind of got away from that basic approach and then started going for the sexy pick and, just kind of following it what everybody else does? Did they get away from the Giant way? Maybe that's a better way to ask.
Yeah, I would definitely say we got away from the Giant way. You could definitely see where it started to crumble as well. Once Coughlin retired, you could kind of sense it was the end of an era. So I feel like at that point in time, we kind of didn't know the exact direction. And from that day, there hasn't been really one competent head coach that we've had. So I feel like after Coughlin, it was the start of this downfall that we've seen this last 10 years. It's been a bit of a drought for us. I feel like he kind of embodied what the Giants were, hard nosed, that type of franchise. And we just haven't really had that since.
Do you think also from the quarterback standpoint, and this has nothing to do with Daniel Jones, that maybe Eli hung on maybe a couple years too longer, that they were so reliant on him that they didn't think about trying to groom a successor to him until it was too late?
I could definitely see that. Everything fell apart at the same time. We were losing defenders. We were losing our quarterback, our head coach, all of that. And we didn't have the correct pieces behind them to lead us to, rebuild properly. If you're going to do something like that, when you know that you're losing your quarterback and he announces retirement, you should definitely have some sort of plan, where I feel like we didn't have anything in place. It's been that way for a long time. We've been, putting patches over holes for 10 years now. It takes a long time to be able to get back to like a full restructure, I feel like.
Let me ask you about one area we did not cover: special teams. Graham Gano was almost automatic last year. Your punting game, you struggled a little bit. You're bringing in a new punter this year. How's that going to work out? Your return game as well.
So I haven't really been keeping up with special teams too much in the off season. I don't really know who our return guys are going to be for sure. And I mean, Graham Gano's been doing his thing. I'm cool with Graham Gano. As long as you're someone that we can trust, like if you just look at the statistics and you're hitting at a good mark, then I'm cool with it. I have no issues. You'll know when you got a kicker that's like, okay, he's got to go. So I'm looking forward to just watching everything come together. Special teams is probably the least of my worries, because that can be fixed, I feel like, quicker than anything else.
Okay. Well, here's the big question for you. What's the record going to be, Eli?
That's a good question. So should we go over the schedules, or do you want me to just give you a blank?
I tell you what,
Because
that's what I got right in front of me.
La schedule.
So we can do it that way.
Okay.
I do have to put my glasses on so I can see. So let's go ahead and do it.
That makes two of us.
At Tennessee,
Loss.
0-1. Home against Carolina,
Win.
1-1. Monday night home against Dallas,
Loss.
1-2. Chicago at home,
Win.
2-2. Green Bay and London,
Loss.
2-3. Baltimore at home,
Loss.
2-4. At Jacksonville,
Win.
3-4. At Seattle,
Win.
4-4. Home against Houston,
That's a win.
5-4. Home against Detroit on my birthday,
That's one of those on the schedule where I would say we should win, but we'll probably lose. I'm going to go lose that one. But I think that we're capable of winning.
5-5. At Dallas on Thanksgiving,
Loss.
5-6. Home against the Commanders,
Home.
yes,
Win.
6-6. Home against Philadelphia,
Loss.
6-7. At Washington,
Loss.
6-8. At Minnesota,
Loss.
6-9. Home against Indianapolis Colts,
Loss.
6-10. Last one at Philadelphia.
Sometimes we split with the Eagles. I'll say loss on paper, but it's definitely one of those that we could compete as well. And any NFC team, except for the Cowboys that we are historically bad against, Eagles and Redskins or Eagles and Commanders, excuse me, I think that every year we can go 1-1, but sometimes, you never know. So yeah, something around that, 6-11.
Well, Gary, what do you think? Then I'll tell you what I think.
I really can't argue with the game by game picks. Let's see. There was one I wanted to say. Remind me about the Chicago Bears. What your pick was?
Oh, I said we win against the Bears.
Okay, that's one. Let's see. I think Seattle. That's one. Remind me of that one.
That was a win for me.
Yeah. Going into Seattle, why do you think they'll win that one? Win that one.
Well, what I think is if we are going to go up against other mediocre teams, I just hope that we are the team that is less mediocre on that night. So any team that I see I know is not going to make the playoffs, the Seahawks won't, the Bears won't, all those teams like that. The Lions won't. Those are games that, as a Giants fan, is a must win to give you hope. So if we don't beat the Seahawks, I would just be disappointed as a fan. I think the team, I don't trust the Seahawks whatsoever. I don't trust whether it's Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Their defense is Swiss cheese, and their offensive line is also historically bad. So that's probably a 21-17 type of Giants win, something like that. Low scoring, field goals.
So you pick 6-11, but let's just say if they go 6-11 and show improvement, do you consider or show some promise? Would that make you feel better? Is that a trade-off?
The record is, I wouldn't say that the record is indicative of promise, because we can win games and it might not show me everything. I want to make sure that we win those games that we must win. So like the 6-11 is including games that I think we can win on paper that we very well could also lose. So if it does go that way, that's good. But then I would also like to see some wins sprinkled in against bigger opponents. Like a Vikings game, I want to see us compete against the Vikings. I want to see us compete against the Packers. Like I don't want to just beat the worst of the worst so that we become the best of the worst, essentially.
Well, tell you what, it must be the jersey, because I came up with the same exact record you did, 6-11. And matter of fact, I had them 6-6, and then they lose their last 5. Philadelphia, Washington, Minnesota, Indianapolis, and Philadelphia. I have them 6-6, and then the last 5. That's going down a rough patch right there. So we'll see what's going to happen. And Gary, I'll give you mine right now, so you'll have it. Prediction for the NFC East: the Eagles will take the NFC East. Then followed by the Cowboys and the Commanders with both 9-8 records, and followed by the Giants.
All right. Well, here is mine. I'm picking Dallas to win the NFC East, as much as that hurts to say, but let's just be real. I do think this is a really put up or shut up year for Dallas. That window is closing. They have to do it now, or else I think you have to gut the roster. I think you have to really reshuffle in a lot of ways in Dallas. I picked Philadelphia second. Well, first, I have Dallas going 11-6.
Oh, that's right. I have Philadelphia 11-6, 12-5, 11-6.
I've got Philadelphia at 10-7. I've got Washington at 8-9, and the Giants at 6-11. Pretty much all the games that you pick for wins. You really, it's going to be indicative of their schedule. You play your schedule. And there are a lot of challenges in there, especially when you have to face Philadelphia, Dallas, the Ravens, Green Bay, teams like that. That's going to be a tough haul for a team in transition. And yet I still think that the Giants could probably be better even at 6-11 than they have been the last couple of years.
I'm going to tell you something. This is a fast-moving show. Eli, thank you for coming on today. This has been a lot of fun. I absolutely enjoyed talking to you about the Giants and just talking to you in general, my friend. It is an absolute pleasure. And I'll make sure I tell your parents that as well. But I will say this to our viewers. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Send us your comments to our email address, dailydeuce247@gmail.com. This has been the wrap up for the NFC East. Gary is going to take it home. We start NFL football games tomorrow night, and then all the other games come on Sunday. I can't wait. I'm like a pig in slop in Salisbury. I'm happy as I don't know what.
We've only been waiting, 8-9 months for this. I can't wait myself. I think we've got a good kickoff game tomorrow night between the Bills and the Rams. We wrap up the lion's share of the games on Sunday night with the Bucks and Dallas. I know John Pitt will be watching that. Again,
John likes watching cartoons, but anyway, go ahead.
Can we go like one week without
that wasn't right. That was not. I'm sorry. Sorry, John.
No, because especially I gave them some dap by picking them to win the NFC East. But yeah, look, this is what we've been waiting for. This is why we exist. I'll just say, for those of you that are married, kiss your wives and girlfriends, because you might not talk to them again until February.
Hey, thanks for watching us this week. Again, thank you, Eli, for coming on and being our guest. You all take care. Have a lot of fun. Watch some sports, and we'll see you again next week.